about 20 to 30 CIA agents and NSA analysts working in the embassy, and then not.
There's most embassies have 20 or 30. Most embassies have 20 or 30 CIA agents working at the embassy, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're talking about the tweet that came in. Hang on just a second. I know you want to say this, but I just started a recording. We are talking about the tweet that came in about 4 or 5 weeks ago from Donald Trump declaring that 31 agents on the ground in Benghazi, when Chris Stevens died, were there. And there was also information about how they were using lie detector tests at the CIA to stop anyone from talking to the media about it. Well, the story basically was shunned and crushed by other stories. The CIA then announced that we had a new heightened Al-Qaeda threat, and they shut down 21 embassies across the world. And then for 2 days, we didn't hear anything about the CIA agents on the ground in Benghazi. And we still don't know anything about that. But go ahead. Now you can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but
no, that's okay.
what they did after they shut down is they did a shuffle. They shuffled analysts and shuffled and they spread people around to different embassies, so that way they did the CIA, NSA, intelligence. And now Trump was ordered to remove the tweet that he had posted.
Okay. So Donald Trump was ordered to remove that tweet that he had posted, and they shuffled some people around, and then that was the end of the story. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was wondering why the story disappeared from the mainstream media, and actually it never hit the mainstream media. It disappeared from the blogosphere, where a lot of stories are being shunned and pushed away. Sometimes tweets don't get any farther than just some person tweeting. That's it. So we are seeing the end of the free press in America, folks. We're also seeing a decline in our ability to defend our rights. Our country is now faced with a controversy. We got truckers gathering in D.C., riding around the Beltway to try to stop this breakdown in our constitutional rights. And I applaud those truckers for doing that. We have a plan to bring our troops home and defend our borders. We have a plan at America's Third Party to end the Federal Reserve, retire their charter, and make them a thing of the past, because we think what they're doing is reckless with money. And we believe that the real problem, the reason why the government shutdown occurred, primarily is that the two parties are unable to cut the money train from our government tax dollars into the corporations that got them elected. They're not willing to cut the funding to all their corporate cronies. That's why our budget cannot be cut. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And this is what I feel. I know I showed you this earlier. I feel that analysts should not be allowed to bring drones like these home from work.
Right.
And use them at home.
No, they can't be allowed to. So that's a drone, huh? Wow. Looks like one of those things I can get at Radio Shack. Interesting.
That's what people want you to think. They do make them, but instead there's a modification into it. Instead of, turn on as a light, but it has a camera to, when I use the remote control, I can gather information. If somebody has an open window, I can fly into the open window and I'm an illness associate or whatever, get the information, record it, fly it back in, and drive away.
Amazing.
Yeah.
They can do that. Interesting. So there you have it, folks. They're going to fly 30,000 drones over our head by 2020. And the Republicans are on board with that. They actually are okay with that. Even Rand Paul is in favor of commercial drones over our country in mass. Now, I'm not in favor of commercial drones. I don't want drones used except to guard our border. That's the difference between me and the Democrats and Republicans. I can see drones used to guard the perimeter of our nation and watch every aspect, but beyond that, domestic surveillance, that's a mess. This is some messed up stuff, isn't it? Yeah. Not pre-recorded videos. This is live. This is live, folks. For if you're watching this in pre-recorded video stage, that's because we've already recorded it and it's been uploaded to YouTube. But for all of you at BattleCam watching, this is live. We are also talking to a person who's got some experience discussing the problems with Syria. What's going on? You think the UN is going to be able to find the necessary gas that they say is buried and pull it all out and do it safely without hurting anybody? Or do you think this is another potential tinderbox of potential problems?
And I feel in tinderbox of trouble. Because all Obama sees is war mongering, and all Joe Biden sees is chaos. So, and I like Joe Biden, but he sees dollar signs. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but he sees dollar signs. And so is Barack Obama. They're both seeing dollar signs for their own pocket.
Okay, are you encountering bad sound on your end? And is anybody unable to hear Chris? Meow? Are you not getting... Yes, Christopher is a veteran of... he claims to be of the 101st Airborne originally.
Yeah.
Good. I'm here to talk about something very serious, Chris. You said you've got some pretty major information to drop on us in a little bit. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about it? Because I haven't heard what that is yet.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
You know, Saudi Arabia, between the memo in the... Now, Arabia has admitted to funding terrorism in a port in the Philippines.
Okay, so you're saying that Saudi Arabia is funding... Are you saying that Saudi Arabia is funding terrorism?
Yes, they admitted in a private closed-door meeting that they have funded some aspect of the base for what is known as Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda, okay. This corroborates the information I've heard about it. Thank you. We believe that Saudi Arabia has been sending a lot of their youths that are kind of radical youths, that Wahhabis, people that believe in jihad.
Yes.
They're sending those people off to Syria to fight with the rebel Al-Qaeda troops. That's what I heard, that King Abdullah was actually outsourcing those kids to be potential terrorists. Interesting. So this corroborates what I've been thinking all along. Wow. So it's an amendment.
What happened is, sorry, I don't disagree. What happened is they go to court and they say, okay, you can have 20 lashes and 15 years in jail, or go to Syria and
wow.
And cause chaos. So basically, you're shifting their problem off to Syria.
I kind of knew that was happening, and this is not a surprise to me. I believe that is probably one of the most disturbing aspects of our foreign policy in America. When we deposed Muammar Gaddafi from Libya's power, and we gave support to the current president of Libya, who is former Al-Qaeda, I knew something was up. I knew something was up. Now, neither John McCain nor Barack Obama has admitted to funding terrorism, but this is probably the most flagrant example of literally America starting a war simply by generating buzz in the media about how bad Assad is, claiming that he's done all these atrocious things without having any verifiable proof, and then trying to push a war against Syria right away, a bombing attack on Damascus just 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Obama and John Kerry, our Secretary of State, both pushing for war at a time when our budget is so tight that we had to literally shut the government down. Now, is this incompetence or what, people? Are we dealing with the most incompetent government in our history, or what? If this doesn't piss you off, I don't know what would. Candy Love says, it really pisses me off how government is screwing over the ones who fought for our freedom. Thanks, Candy and Vaughn. Thank you. Very, very suspicious behavior on Obama's part. Yeah.
Yeah. And if I was Congress, I would be fine for an impeachment hearing. If I was a member of Congress, I would be fine for an impeachment hearing right away.
I would too. Yeah, I would definitely apply for impeachment. I think the Democrats have been far too lax with Obama, and it's going to hurt their party in 2016. They aren't doing enough to question Obama's policies. He's getting off with a free ride. Him being black has been the biggest bonanza for him in the history of presidents. He's using demagoguery to prevent anyone from questioning him. Anyone who questions him is deemed a racist by his cronies, his supporters. And anyone in the media who questions Obama, it's like a death sentence for their job. I've talked to comedians that said, hey, you got to stay away from Obama, dissing him. Saturday Night Live has stepped out to do some satire of Obama, but it's really tongue-in-cheek. It's not really cutting satire. But we are looking now at a president that is not only sabotaging our economy by letting it shut down and not downsizing the necessary people in offices that are currently working, like even our park service. We could run on a skeleton crew of janitors, essentially, that can clean up and deal with the park problem at 1/3, or if not 1/5 of the cost of the rangers. We could solve this problem, open up the parks. But according to Utah, our national parks in Utah cost $20,000 a day to operate. Something's wrong with this picture, folks. I mean, when our parks are costing that much, that means we've got a huge bureaucracy that is slowing us down and preventing us from running efficiently. Our country is clearly out of whack. That's why I'm running for president, because I'm a frugality expert. I know how to find the necessary cuts to make the system run without a lot of frills, but it'll still run, and then we can start figuring out where we can go from there. I've also got great ideas. I'm an innovative person. I can come up with fantastic new ideas on my feet, in front of an audience. We can come up with new ideas. We can make this country better, but we aren't even participating. Our country, the American people, are not even participating in their government. We're just talking about talking heads in Washington or on television. That's all we're dealing with right now. There's about 35 people that keep regenerating on TV. You see the same faces over and over again. Even Anthony Weiner got a speaking engagement with Sean Hannity the other day on his show. Now, I can't get on to Sean Hannity to talk about policy. Anthony Weiner, who's been sexting and committing egregious acts, gets on Sean Hannity. You see what's happening?
Right.
Because they can control him.
Oh, yeah.
They already got him under their thumb, and they're controlling him right now. Look what happened to Elliot Spitzer. He got a job on CNN after being controlled. Then once they got him under their control, he gets a big job. Sarah Palin got her under control at Fox. She's going to go on staff at Fox News again. They control these people. They buy them off.
Right. I want to address somebody in the chat room on Dial Sam. Sando.
Yeah.
Yes, I was in the 101st Airborne. I cannot tell you what programs I was read into, because that would be violating the National Security Act of 1947 and 49 and 62. Sorry.
Yeah. National Security Acts are very important. And whatever Hoppy's doing on our show today is within the confines of public knowledge. He doesn't talk about anything he knows that's a top secret piece of information. So none of this is coming off from anything other than public information. We want to make sure we don't in any way jeopardize our national security, and this show is really about taking a look at what we all can see in the news. I mean, CBSNews.com wrote about the president of Libya being former Al-Qaeda. I'm quoting from them. This is not stuff I'm making up. So our country indeed is supporting terrorism. And if Saudi Arabia, our ally, is doing the same, and they're exporting jihadists over there to Syria to start problems and create chaos, like you say, we've got a big problem on our hands. And the American people seem to be completely oblivious to it en masse. We have not developed a political voice in our government, and we are clearly being trampled on. We're going to be forced to join a war or some godforsaken thing. I don't want to go to war. This is all about preventing war, and I could feel Barack Obama pushing for more war. And I know that his idea of change really is happening. It's change where we literally have them watching over us.
Right.
Careful what you
Well,
wish
you
for.
want-
You get it. This is the change he was talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
Right. And the thing is, he wants to take these small wars that are hidden and bring them up to the limelight and make them into average soldier wars. I'm sorry, I won't stand for that. I will fight tooth and nail to not have these small wars become a standard war like Afghanistan or Iraq or Vietnam. I will not allow, it's my duty to not allow these small wars to turn into major wars. I want to squash it.
Yeah, I know. And small wars are what Henry Kissinger prophesized was going to happen. In fact, most of our policy in American foreign policy has been driven by the Council on Foreign Relations and the Kissinger Institute and the Trilateral Commission. Most of our foreign policy has been about doing what Kissinger said in 1977. He said, there will be low-intensity conflict battles. It will be a slow acquisition of the New World Order. I mean, he literally supports a New World Order. He wants small conflicts, low-intensity conflict, and that's how the whole idea of preventative or preemptive strikes occurred. Preemptive strikes was part of that plan. Remember George W. Bush? People die fighting for democracy. Well, that was the same concept. Yeah.
Yeah. And people think we have a democracy here. We don't have a democracy. We're a republic. There's a difference between a republic and a democracy. If we truly were a democracy, we would have a lot more say in our government than we do now.
True.
We are the Republic of the United States.
We are.
Not the democracy of the United States.
That's right.
People get those things confused.
Well, we need to return to our republic roots, the concept of our rights. The first 10 amendments to the Constitution are paramount, but obviously all the amendments are paramount, especially the 22nd Amendment, limiting him to just 2 terms. If Obama tries to pull one of those things where, well, we're in deep crisis and, the whole crap house could go up in flames, and then he could say, well, I need to retain the presidency, so we're canceling the election, and I'm declaring official martial law. I can just see that happening, and then he employs Directive 51, which gives him 6 months to justify it with Congress, and then he uses all the means of other laws that have been created under his leadership, executive orders, that allow for the UN takeover of our country. This could very well undermine all of our freedoms. So we have our freedoms at stake here. This is about what America was built on, everybody, and if you don't stand up for what matters, you will lose it. You know, freedom and democracy and our republic are all like a muscle. If you don't use it, it atrophies. It disappears, it dwindles. So we need to use our freedom of speech, our right to bear arms, our right to privacy. We need to defend that, and if we don't, they will take it away from us. And they're already doing that. They're doing it obviously, they're doing it overtly, right in front of our eyes. And the Republicans and Democrats just sit around going, well, I kind of like the idea of, our rights being taken away. Was it Lindsey Graham made that famous statement? Yeah.
And I'm not going to mention his name, but in a local senator or representative in the state government here, and he told me some of the stuff that he has seen is disgusting. Why can't we just all get along in Congress and get our act together and stop acting like children?
Yeah.
That is what they're acting like. It's children.
Yeah.
He said.
They are acting like children. And Barack Obama is leading the way. His entire approach toward this problem has been to stonewall the Republicans. He doesn't want to open up a dialogue. He doesn't want to share information. He claims he wants to compromise but not negotiate. And I ask you, how is it possible to do either one? Now, he's got this woman, Yellen, he's going to pick to be the replacement for Ben Bernanke. This is the woman. I can't think of a more weak appointment in the history of the Federal Reserve. Not that I like the Federal Reserve, but look at this woman. She's going to be like mush. She won't have any teeth. She won't be able to generate confidence in our economy. This woman is going to create a crisis of economic fear. Yellen is her name.
If she becomes the head of the men's going to go, the money's going to go tumbling down more.
Right.
Not that I don't like women, don't misunderstand me, but she is not competent for this job. I'm sorry. That's how I see it.
Right.
She's not competent.
Now, Shirtless over here in Battle Camp says, there is no America, there is no democracy. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies. The world is a college of corporations. Yes, sir, we agree. This is a corporatocracy. This is a corporatocracy. Yeah. This is nothing at all like our forefathers created.
Right. This was created with, it all started with Truman left office. We had Eisenhower, and then we had, Eisenhower, and then we had Kennedy, and then we had Nixon, and then we had our wonderful Ronald Reagan. Everything go downhill.
Yeah. Well, Ronald Reagan was he restored confidence in the presidency, I believe. He was a kind of an image president. I don't believe he had any substantive change here in our country, but he was famous for telling Gorbachev, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And when he said that, it sounded like he had imminent power beyond all of our wildest imaginations. Ronald Reagan was an image icon, and I believe that insofar as we look back, he probably just changed the view of the presidency in a positive way.
Right, and actually, most Americans don't know that the Berlin Wall was already coming down. Mm-hmm. Way before that, he said that there was talk about reuniting Germany already.
Right, exactly. Now you're saying David Hasselhoff tore down the Berlin Wall. That's very funny.
And I can't comment about David Hasselhoff. I can't comment about David Hasselhoff because my friends in jail were stealing signs at the Cumberland Farm. One of my friends was arrested. My friends were born.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. So you can't legally talk about David Hasselhoff. Well, I wasn't bringing him up. Drunk Stone Nutter did in the chat room. All right. So, we don't want to talk about anything you can't legally talk about, of course. All right, so this anti-war rally, as irrelevant as it may seem to some people, actually is quite relevant to the future of this country and will be looked at in perpetuity. People will see this video in future generations and say, wow, this guy David John Sponheim really was trying to stop the production of more war machines. You see, I analyzed our budget, and I looked at how much money we were putting out, and with Edward Snowden information revealed a few months ago that our military budget is part of the problem, but the NSA and CIA are operating on $52.6 billion a year. We found that out. And Department of Homeland Security is another $70 billion a year. So that's $122 billion a year. And then we're looking at about $800 billion a year coming out of the military budget. NDAA was authorized, $662 billion, but by the time they end up getting contractors and all the overpayments and overcharges from military contractors, we've been spending about $800 billion a year on the U.S. military. So we're looking at almost $1 trillion for national security. We can't even. We only make about $1.3 trillion only from taxes and other income this country brings in. We can barely cover the cost of our military, let alone our Department of Social Services and all the cost of the health care and the welfare. And you hear a lot of Republicans saying, well, just cut the welfare and all that. Well, we should cut welfare to certain amounts of welfare to people that are sucking off the system. I agree with them in that respect.
Right.
But I don't want to just cut it randomly, and I certainly don't want to cut food stamps randomly. I want to cut the food stamps to people that are non-U.S. citizens. That'll save us about $30 billion a year.
I don't think I agree. I think illegal immigrants cannot have food stamps at all. I think that they're illegal. They're not supposed to be here. They came and they came here without a visa or they came past their visa. You don't belong here. If you want to be here, do it the proper way. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. My grandmother did it the proper way. Why don't you have a sponsorship? Let's go back to the way it was. Not this saving ride, you know? I'm talking about accountability again. And again, I'm sorry. People, if you see my sunglasses, I'm not looking at people. I just don't feel good. Not neck.
Yeah.
I am very sick. But that's besides me. But I feel that we need to have, again, accountability, which we don't have anymore.
Right. No accountability, yeah, I agree with you. So the war machine is part of the corporatocracy, and they own everything. The war machine and the corporatocracy are all joined at the hip, and that's why they want to push war in front of us and make it palatable for all of us. This is not something right.
Yeah, that's why they make Modern Warfare 2 and 3. That's why they make Battlefield 4. They make us comfortably numb and used to the idea of guns going off.
Right.
That is why the game is so popular. Then the kids go and he turns 18, gets ready to play the video game all throughout his teens, and goes and joins the army. And when in reality, this kid may have psychological problems or something, and then he goes off the handle, and then we have a situation on our hands. So this is, again, going back to accountability. I don't think we should have any type of game when...
Right. It is different yesterday. Hi, you heard about Xerox's failure yet? Half the states of the union, folks, at this time are facing food stamp shortages. People can't cash their EBT cards. This whole thing is being manufactured simultaneously with the government shutdown. Apparently, they're using this entire government shutdown as their false flag effort to create civil unrest in this country.
Right.
Thank you, Different Yesterday.
Yeah, Different Yesterday. Okay, and there is a handful of things that are using Hewlett Packard, and I'm lucky to be in one of those things that are using Hewlett Packard. So I'm not going to look so far, I have nothing to worry about. But the people that are using Xerox are...
Xerox, yeah. So the Xerox is running some of it. JP Morgan, by the way, folks, you probably don't know this, but JP Morgan makes money on Social Security and food stamps. Morgan Stanley has been operating food stamps for some time. Apparently, when people use their EBT card, Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan make money on the transfer.
They make a card like this.
Right.
They make a card like this. I'm not just showing information.
No, that's fine. It's an EBT card,
they make cards like these.
Yep. Hey, I don't have a problem with people collecting food stamps, especially American citizens.
Yeah.
I have a problem with people who are illegal collecting them, and I would like to get our country to be much more efficient with their food stamp money. And I've got a plan to actually tie food stamps to our farm subsidies, running out of the USDA. We can actually grow food and produce it for people, making great low-cost entrees for people, frozen entrees that would be very good for anybody making a meal for two. Something like that could integrate our farm subsidies and our food at the same time.
I agree.
Okay.
I had a garden this past summer. Every summer, we grow our own vegetables here, fruits and vegetables. Every summer, we grow tomatoes, we grow squash, zucchini, basil, cucumber, sunflower seeds, and I like baseball, so we plant our own sunflower.
Great.
I take the seeds and I roast them and make my own food instead of spending money with any spending on non-healthy sunflower seeds.
Right,
My
exactly.
sister grows my older sister grows a pumpkin. She gives me the pumpkin seed, and we make our own pumpkin seed.
Yeah.
In the fall, and we still got baseball going on.
Right, Victory
So-
Gardens. Victory Gardens are the way to go. Stock up on food and prepare to grow your own vegetables. Even if you have an apartment, folks, prepare for the worst. You know, I recommend planting potatoes in garbage cans. You can put those outside on a balcony in your apartment and grow up to 48 potatoes in a year. It's been done.
Yes.
Seriously. You get a green garbage can for $15 at one of the big box stores, put it out there, fill it with good quality soil, and put the potatoes pieces in there, and you grow more potatoes. It's just one thing you can do to help maintain a backup supply. All right, well, we certainly want political action, and our country cannot possibly be driven by just an entire media machine. There's got to be something out there. So we, the American people, are going to have to do this. We're going to have to build a party to challenge the two-party system in 2016. Otherwise, we're going to be led down the same road toward war like the two parties have taken us over the past 50 years since the Vietnam War. Yeah.
Now, the only time I would say, looking back in the past 50 years down the foot ahead things was when Kennedy was president. That was our golden opportunity, but unfortunately, the intelligence community shut the door on that one.
Yeah, that's right. Kennedy got taken out. Kennedy had a lot of great ideas, and it's very likely that he could have gotten us out of Vietnam. We didn't need to send 58,000 men off to die in Vietnam. That was a big mistake that LBJ did once Kennedy was taken out of the picture. Kennedy himself was a very good president. He's one of my favorite presidents, and we could have had a much better nation if we had Kennedy as our president. And even Robert F. Kennedy would have been a great president too. But now we've got cover-ups after cover-ups, and I have to remind all of you that this is something that David Rockefeller said that's shocking. All we need is the right major crisis. The nations will accept the New World Order. David Rockefeller. So what are they producing right now but a major crisis? The government shutdown. The whole thing is turning into a crisis across the country, and it's being made more of a crisis by Obama unwilling to allow even states that want to man their state parks are not allowed to man their state parks.
Right.
Crazy. He purposely is doing this so that he can win, and his ego wins. This Obamacare is dead on arrival, and he thinks he can push it right down our throats. And all it is a vain attempt by the corporations, major healthcare providers, to make more money. That's all it is.
Right.
And it's an expansion of our Medicaid system. It's going to cost our tax dollars dearly, well into the future.
Oh, yeah. And I can tell you from personal experience that even though Obamacare is in effect, there are doctors that still won't see you. Still will refuse to see you and treat you. So, Obamacare is not doing anything. There's no change or anything. Accountability.
Right.
Again, accountability. Anything this man does, there's never any accountability.
Right. And that's the problem with government. Take care, Mad Dog. Thanks for coming in our show tonight.
Take care, man.
Yeah, the lack of accountability is just the tip of the iceberg, though, because deep beneath the layers are all these people trying to seek money on all different levels from our government dollar. And that's why they haven't been able to cut down their budget. That's why they haven't been able to slow it down. That's one of the biggest problems. Our country could actually build jobs if we create new products. But no, they want to outsource those jobs. Obama's done nothing to start new industry in America. In fact, when he was asked to create an electric car, he fronted a $1.5 billion loan to a Finnish company called Fisker Motors, and now they're bankrupt. Shows you how completely inept Obama is at creating buzz and new enterprise. He's never created a business in his life. He has no concept of how hard it is to create a business. This guy has been living in the lap of luxury all his life. He didn't have a hard life as a young man. He actually was catered to like a pro basketball player. He was given everything you wanted.
Right.
It's really sad.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Manny says you make your
Yeah.
jobs. Don't expect something for nothing. I agree, Manny. I mean, all of you, if you pursued what you really loved with a vigor, there's a good chance you'll make money doing it. It's just the nature of things. If you focus and you apply yourself and you're ingenious, you will create your own little business. Maybe it's a non-toxic house cleaning business in your area where you use non-toxic products. A lot of people would like that. Maybe you're using an electric mower and you want to do like a green-friendly mowing job around the neighborhood. You'd buy a bunch of batteries and charge them all up and take your electric mower out. Be kind of a novel idea. Call it your electric mower company or something. This is a way of making money in our economy if you really apply yourself. All right, I appreciate the call. I'm going to go ahead and close out of the recorded broadcast, but we'll keep you up and running for the rest of the show till the end of the hour.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm smart.
That's great.
I'm willing to talk to you whenever.
Okay, great. Well, we'll be up a little bit longer. All right, well, thank you for watching, all of you, in recorded broadcasts. We'll be doing our show every night, Monday through Saturday, including our Anti-War Saturday, 6 to 9 Pacific. So catch us every single night except Sunday. Bye-bye.